We need to talk about how to win a culture war, because we are losing one. This is definitely going to be more than one video, because first we need to talk about how to lose a culture war and how we got to where we are. So several strange things have happened to the social and cultural landscape in the last 10 years. One of them is that the party that represents conservative values, the party that represents the very rich, that represents very restrictive social morals, that party has somehow managed to position itself as a countercultural movement. People, especially young men, are identifying with that side of the political spectrum as a way of resisting what they perceive as dominant cultural and social morality, placing constraints on their freedoms. They see a conservative movement as a resistance movement. And this might sound fucking crazy to you, and that's because it's fucking crazy. But if you look at the tactical mistakes that actual resistance politics have made in the past 10 years, it begins to make some sense. First, obviously, by alienating straight white men, by pointing out the factual, historical relationship between straight white men and maintaining this cultural, economic dominance over everyone else. But then by offering very few ways to conscript those same straight white men into a resistance against a system that also dominates and oppresses many of them. And a lot of that has to do with the intervention of liberalism and its interest in maintaining a distance between marginalized identity movements and class struggle. Because mainstream liberalism was only interested in politically pursuing the very real oppression experienced by marginalized identity groups, so long as that identity politics didn't disturb the established class order, which is their core mission to protect and preserve. So what liberalism permitted resistance politics to pursue was a kind of ideological critique, a kind of cultural revision, a kind of language policing, changing the way that we speak and relate to each other, while leaving intact the economic oppression that is the historical source of much of this marginalization to begin with. Historically, the reason that many of these social classification systems developed in the first place was to keep all of the poor people fighting amongst each other and to ignore the hoarding of resources by the rich. And keeping identitarian projects divorced from that basic possible material unifying principle plays right into that playbook. So what it looked like was deploying shame and guilt on a massive scale, making huge moral demands of people that they change the way that they speak and think and act without giving them a reason to believe that the success of the resistance would be good for them also, when in fact it would be. And so this created the illusion that resistance politics held the dominant moral position in this culture, when in fact it did not. By making demands of the dominant order, by making huge demands that power be ceded from them, when we in fact did not have the power to do that, it made it look to people like we were already in the dominant position and that they were free to resist that domination. We told people who empirically experienced their lives as being powerless that they were oppressors and that they should feel guilt for it. We told individual people that they were the enemy when we could have given them skin in the game and conscripted them against a system. It gave the conservatives a perfect opportunity to cosplay as a counterculture, to cosplay as a resistance, when in fact they already held all of the cultural and economic power. And that is a recipe for a world historical political disaster.